Right, that's us live. So I'll just give a few minutes just to let people join in, and just as well as let you know that we'll be talking about social innovation today and just all the things around social innovation on campus. As you know, this year I am the lead for social innovation, UHatch, and the Student Leaders Program. And it's just very nice to talk about such issues that are so close to so many students' hearts. So I'll just give it a couple more minutes before I introduce my guest and also highlight the reason why I have my guest today is because I chose this year as one of my individual objectives to raise the awareness and knowledge that students have on campus on all the amazing services that GCU has to offer for our students. So I'm Tabitha Nyariki, for those who don't know me, and I'm the Vice President for the School of Health and Life Sciences. And today I am pleasure to have Rose as my guest. So I'll give Rose a chance to just introduce herself and just tell us a little bit more about what she does.
Yeah, do you want me to wait a few minutes or just jump in?
No, just go ahead and jump in.
Okay. So hi everyone, it's great to be here today. My name's Rose Cawood, and I work at GCU as well. I work in the Research and Innovation Office, so we deal with broadly anything to do with supporting the development of research applications, grants, all that kind of thing, but also the innovation aspect. It kind of covers some areas that are around collaboration, potentially with outside businesses, industry, organization, and more recently we're looking at how we can kind of create links with social enterprises, with community groups, community activism, public sector, anything that's looking at kind of social impact as well. So we do a broad range of things. We typically have always done probably kind of more to support academics. It's kind of more of the function of the office, but more and more we're looking at how we can kind of do things that support across the university. So not just academics, but non-academic staff, and also the student body, and typically for students more in ways that are non-curricular. So different things we can do to support that. So yeah, that's in a nutshell what we do and what I do.
That sounds very interesting. You must be having a very busy diary with all those things that you have to do. So I know you have mentioned social innovation. So maybe for the listeners, what is social innovation? Because I do know that there's always varying descriptions of what it is.
Yes, so social innovation, I think probably a lot of you have heard about it because it's something the university talks about a lot. So one of the kind of most accepted definitions of social innovation, and I have to just quickly apologize before I go any further. My dog is sitting on the couch with me, and if he makes any noises or like decides to climb into the frame, I apologize, but this is working from home. So just thought I'd let you know that before I go any further, because he looked like he was moving. So, so social innovation, one of the kind of broadly accepted definitions, and the one I tend to use when I explain it, is that social innovations are basically any kind of new product, new ways of working, new service, new campaigns, all sorts of things. Really covers kind of anything that basically address or meet social needs and have a kind of social impact. But that can cover anything from, like environmental things to a broad range of social issues. It could be like homelessness, it could be loneliness, it could be health, it could be anything. And usually when we're talking about social innovation, it's looking at how it can kind of change the status quo, or find a kind of more effective way of doing something than the kind of current other alternatives that are out there. So it would be kind of looking to do something a bit different usually, and something more effective perhaps than what's already happening. And one of the big things that when we talk about social innovation that we often say, we talk about disruption and this kind of big status quo system change. And that's kind of not, so when we're talking about this, not necessarily like something that happens immediately, but often when someone comes up with a good idea and then it gains traction over time, it has that kind of ability to change the new and something into a new norm, or the new way of doing things. So there's lots of examples of things that are social innovation that have become the norm and probably are not technically social innovation anymore, but once at their sort of time when they were kind of happening and changing things, they were socially innovative. One example that I like to use is nursery or kindergarten, and the first one of those I think was sort of in our local area, basically, or one of the first models of this, which was New Lanark. So if anyone's ever heard of it or been to it, I recommend visiting when we can again. It's really interesting, and they were trying to kind of implement a new community and working model. And one of the things that they did, and this is hundreds of years ago, was they realized people couldn't go to work if they had little children. So it meant that people could go to work, and that benefited them, and they could send their children to some kind of like daycare, basically. So that was one of the first examples. But as we all know now, this is like a widespread thing that we now have as, something we do. So it's a good example of a social innovation, but it's not really social innovation anymore. But I would say probably in the context of GCU and the types of work that I'm doing and what we're trying to kind of grow, we just kind of keep it more broad. And it's really anything that has a social impact. So we want to encourage staff to think about how their research might have a social impact, or if they've got great ideas about a new way of doing something, we might want to encourage them to think about working with a community group or making certain connections where they might look at how they could pilot something like that, or just sharing that knowledge. And then also perhaps they might gain that knowledge from a group, a community group in practice, saying, well, actually, we don't think that would work, but if you did this, that might work. So there's a kind of, we want to have more of that two-way flow of information and sharing, but we also want to encourage students to think about ways in which they can get involved, or that this is thinking about working for businesses that might want to create social impact, or you might yourself actually have ideas that you want to kind of think about developing into something. And also I would stress as well, I talk about it a lot, and we have a lot of support available for students who have like business ideas that have social impact, but it also could be anything. It could be perhaps like student activism at university. It doesn't have to necessarily be like a business. It could be like a short-term project or a voluntary project, or campaigning of some kind. So it could be anything. And when I'm kind of promoting it, I'm talking just broadly about anything that has sort of social impact like that.
Yeah, that's great. I know you've mentioned a lot about supporting students and staff. So maybe is there any criteria that you guys use before you accept to help a student or staff, or is it just available to all students? And what's the process of going about applying for such help and just getting information about how your team can help them?
Yeah, so criteria is very open. It depends on what kind of what support a student might want to access. What we've tried to do is to have things there that can be used at different stages by students who are interested. And we're trying to do more and more. This is like an evolving thing, and it's an evolving area. So really, criteria is pretty open. It just have to have a kind of a want to make a change. You might recognize some kind of social issue. It doesn't have to be on a big scale. It doesn't have to be all poverty, all homelessness, but it might be that in your local area or village or like area of Glasgow or wherever, you've noticed a kind of particular social problem or something that you're aware of or even have experienced yourself that you might want to address, and you're thinking, I'd like to do something about this, or I'd like to get involved and do something more about this, but I don't know where to start, or I don't know, I don't have the tools or the resources to do something, but I have an idea. So what we have in place is starting at the level of students that might just kind of be looking for a bit of inspiration or just to explore more about social enterprise, which is basically a business that has a social focus. And usually social enterprise, the funds that they get, the profit that they get, gets reinvested into their mission rather than being pocketed. But people still get paid salaries, but the idea is that they're not getting rich off it and they're putting it back into the mission. So it may be that students, and I'd say probably this would be a larger group, a larger majority of the student body would be just looking to kind of find out more, gets talked about at the university. And for that, we have a platform where we're working with another organization, and it's been offered for free at GCU, and it's called Social Shifters. There's a link to sign up. It's very quick, information that you fill in, and it basically just has a lot of kind of information, and it's interactive information. It's not like a big thing to read, but there's videos, there's clips. They've deliberately tried to make them quite engaging and quite inspiring. They have a kind of documentary about the younger generation Z, I think, who kind of thinking more about businesses and careers and life paths that have social impact, and what it's meant to be kind of broadly inspiring content. And they have information about examples of social enterprises as well. So that is the kind of first stop for anyone that just wants to have a little look around and see what's there, but not too much kind of effort, I guess. And then we have kind of next steps up from there. So if, for example, a student is interested in perhaps developing something, or developing a project or a business, then we have a range of support available through UHatch, which is the university's business incubator. So they support any business, but we're trying to integrate a kind of a good level of support for just social enterprise and social business within that. So there is a range of kind of e-learning resources that we have, and these are kind of broadly ranging from what's your idea, kind of looking at how you define your idea, to perhaps where you might look for funding, to writing business models. A lot of the things that you would maybe need to do if you do have an idea and you want to take it and pitch for funding somewhere, they'll often be looking for something like a business plan and business canvas model, this kind of thing. But it's all tailored to social business and social enterprise. And then also, if perhaps someone has an idea, has done a bit of that learning, but is at the point where they want to then actually get started and register a business, or start to create, literally create one, UHatch has quite a bit of support in place for that. So there's an organization called Firstport. They're kind of the number one supporting agency for social enterprise startups in Scotland, and Firstport basically do a lot of kind of one-to-one, but they also do seed funding, but they also have funding for people who are a bit further along, and it's kind of boosting funding. So someone that's got an idea well developed and they need a bit more of a boost, but they're further along than starting up. And also through UHatch, we have other kinds of funding pots that are available through Santander. There are small pots of funding that can be accessed through that. So there's a range of kind of supports there, but also we have business advisors through UHatch. So you would have one-to-one time with a business advisor. I didn't finish what I was saying about Firstport. Actually, Firstport is technically based within UHatch as well, and this is all a bit complicated right now because of course none of us are on campus, but the hope is that when we get back there'll be that kind of on-campus support there as well, where you can go and literally go into UHatch and say I'd like to talk to someone from Firstport, and see where that goes. But similarly, you could do that with a person through UHatch as well, who are specific business advisors. And the business advisors that we have are really great actually, because they are academics at GCU, but they're also have started or been involved in starting up a kind of a social business. One of them is he runs an organization called Lingo Flamingo, and it basically is about using learning languages with patients who are elderly and often have dementia or Alzheimer's or cognitive kind of difficulties in some way, and the benefits of doing that for their kind of well-being and their health and their like cognitive benefits as well. So that's one example, but they're also, we have them on hand as business advisors, so that's another element of support there as well. And with UHatch, there's also, again, this is a bit complicated at the moment because we're all at home, but usually UHatch does also have space for someone that may want to kind of work out of UHatch while they're in the early stages of development until they're kind of at a point where they want to roll out and have their own premises somewhere, for example. So we have a number of businesses that actually use the space, but there's also the opportunity to just kind of hot desk there. And there's meeting rooms and things like that. So it's meant to have support there in place in case anyone wants to kind of really get going with a business and needs a bit of time in between, like literally just going out into the world and like starting up, which is often the case. And I'd say the other thing that's very beneficial about that, particularly for social enterprises, is it can be a very lonely world starting your own business, and just actually being in a space with other people that are doing similar things can be really beneficial because you form a kind of a network and you can bounce ideas off each other and not feel so alone, basically. And one of the other things we have as well is we've partnered with an organization in Edinburgh called the Melting Pot. Melting Pot was one of the very first like co-working spaces for social enterprises. And that's obviously, as I've said, it's all become a bit more complicated, and they're thinking very hard about what co-working might look like if we're all working at home a little bit more. But we partnered with them on one of their kind of, it's an incubation accelerator program, where we've been able to offer it in Glasgow, and they've typically only been able to offer it in Edinburgh. So that's something that we're going to hopefully continue to do. It probably be after this summer that we would bring that back in, because it's been a bit too complicated to do that now. But it's a really, really great course and really engaging, and really helps people kind of get into the nitty-gritty of their problem and really think about, like, is this a good idea? The things I can change, like really break it down, really understand their customer, really kind of think about the actual solution that they're looking at, and whether they can kind of make it better and kind of hone it, I guess. So that's something that we're going to hopefully offer as well. So there's a number of things there available to support students. The other thing that there's kind of other things where we are, and these are things that kind of happen every so often and occasionally, and it's, whereas the other things I've described are like constant things that are available. So sometimes we do projects around social innovation internationally, and we look to kind of engage students in those sometimes. And one of those projects is something that we actually have at the moment. It's around digital skills for students, and how they can use those to support social enterprise and social innovation. So that project, we're looking to recruit about 40 students over the kind of next couple of years to take part in some training and summer and winter schools. And these would be abroad, and it would be paid for by the project. So there's basically an opportunity to travel there, meet other students in Europe who are interested in social innovation and social impact, and gain some really good skills at the same time as well. And then the idea with that as well is it's leading towards potential micro internships with social enterprises. So those wouldn't be paid internships, but it would be an opportunity to work with a social enterprise on a very short project, where they would gain skills and experience of working with social enterprises. And there would be quite a range available of opportunities there. so that could be quite an exciting opportunity if students are interested in that. And we're kind of starting to recruit now. So if anyone is listening to this and is interested in doing that, then please do write me an email. And we're keen to engage as many students as we can. So I don't think that there's going to be any particularly strict kind of guidelines around like what we expect. We just expect an interest, and we expect them to turn up to workshops and things like this. So there is a bit of a kind of commitment there. But if there's interest in doing that, then please contact me, and I will continue to share with Tabitha about those kind of events when they pop up. One of the other ad hoc things we're doing at the moment is we have sorry, I should stop in a minute and let you have a bit of back and forth with me, but we have a competition at the moment with some potential funding to be won. It's not a lot, but some funding that's available for anyone that has like a social enterprise or who is a social entrepreneur or a socially innovative idea that they'd like to develop. And we made sure it's quite easy because we're really trying to just gain a bit of kind of insight, and we'd like to see some videos from students or staff as well who are interested in that competition. So the overall prize money for that one is €2,000. This is across Europe though, but I have to say it's among a project group, so it's not huge. It's not like we've got hundreds and hundreds of applicants, but there is also a runner-up prize of €500 to be spent on your idea for each country. So we would also have that €500 to give to a local winner. And basically, we're for that competition, it's closing it's sort of in the next couple of weeks. I think that the 7th is the last day you can submit, but all we're asking is for like 3 to 4 videos about your idea, and how it's kind of, where it's come from, like who you are, what's the issue that you want to look at, and how it's going to be sustainable, how it's going to work. And so you don't need to be like really far down the line. For example, you might be looking to get some funding to start up an idea, for example, and that's okay. And really the videos is 3 to 4. It depends on what the person basically wants to submit, and they're around 2 to 3 minutes each, the videos. So it's not a lot that we're looking for that at all. And really it's just to try and kind of see what's out there and to try and start to engage. So again, if you're interested in entering that, then please do write me an email, and I can tell you more about it. But that one is time limited, so if you're interested, come to me soon. So there's a few opportunities there available, that if anyone is interested, that things we're trying to do to support students. So yeah.
I think it's just fantastic to see all this happening. I think some of them I've just had for the first time, which is quite great. And I think it's amazing that there's so much happening within the university to just support social innovators, because we know it's a hot topic now, and it's something that everyone is trying to do. I also do know that we have a social innovation master's, if I'm not wrong, offered in the university. So I think it ties really quite well in. And I know earlier on you mentioned about social shifters, which is also something I've been promoting. So if you've been watching my lives or you follow me on social media, you've seen that I've posted a lot about it. So if you do want more information about that, you can get in touch with me or with Rose, as she said. On my social medias are just all Tabitha Nyariki _VP SHLS, and they're all posted there with the link. So it's quite good to know that there's such amazing facilities for students to use. And I know you mentioned about UHatch and all the services that UHatch has, and all the other things. So maybe is there one place where students can go and get more information about all these things that you've mentioned, or is it better to just get in touch with you and then you'll signpost them to what they need to do?
So probably I'd say come to me in the first instance. My office operates UHatch, so we have control over that. It's not like I'm not linked to it. And in terms of the social kind of support side of it, rather than the general business side of it, a lot of that's work that I do. So I can easily link students in if they're interested. And if they are, for example, looking to get into UHatch like space and to access the business advisors and things like that, it's one of my colleagues basically, so who runs UHatch, and I can link you in with her very easily as well. So basically come to me and then we'll work out what you need and we can go from there. So yeah, but yeah, you mentioned the social innovation masters, Tabitha, as well, and there is actually also a social innovation module that they've trialed in the last kind of year or so. I think it first was rolled out, was it maybe January last year, possibly the semester before that it started, and I think that's Frances McInnes that runs that module. So if I think it's available to I'm not sure if it's available to any level of study, but it definitely is available to third and fourth year students, and also to like master's level, I think. And you can just have it, if you need some extra credits, you can bolt it on. And I've seen some of the content, it's very interesting and it's very kind of interactive. So lots of chance to kind of throw ideas around, and there's I think the project on the module is around kind of digital storytelling, so that's also quite interesting, quite creative. So if anyone's interested in that, have a little look. I think I can share information with Tabitha about that, but I think Frances McInnes is the one that leads that module, and there's information about it on the website as well, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, the masters also is very engaging as far as I'm aware, and I know the leader of that course as well. So there's lots of things there. You could take many different routes. You might want to do a business, you might just want to know a bit more, you might want to do some academic study. So there's loads of avenues there. But I think the topic of social innovation is a growing one. We've just kind of seen a real kind of explosion of support and interest in the last few years in the kind of sector of social enterprise as well. And I think that's because we have big issues we're facing, like climate change, the climate emergency is a huge issue, and the younger generation in particular, understands that this is our problem, we've got to deal with it, right? So this is something that there's real encouragement of people to think about this and to think about solutions and think about careers in this area, but also it's just on everyone's mind as well. And then of course with COVID, I think we're all aware that there's going to be probably real problems for us coming out of this as well, and there'll be real problems with the economy and with joblessness, and potentially increases in things like homelessness, loneliness. So there's loads of things there as well, and I think we're all aware of that too. And I also think, I know that there's been kind of research that shows that the younger generations, and by no means I know that there are others who are of other generations, and I know GCU has a lot of mature students as well, so I don't want to pigeonhole the groups of students we're talking about, but there is a kind of growing I think like sort of interest for the younger generations, that their degree courses have a reflection of like kind of social issues, and apparently I've heard a real interest in careers that have kind of better social benefits for them, but also in terms of the work that they're doing having an impact. So I think the new generations are really interested in this kind of area, and I think maybe we're all just sort of learning that we maybe need to be a little bit kinder and like think a little bit more about other people, and rather than just like make money, like capitalism kind of being the number one route. So I think it's brilliant, and I think that we're trying to implement a lot to support that, but it's new for us as well. So if anyone has any great suggestions about things you think are missing as well, then let me know, and we can look at how we might build something like that across the university.
Yeah, that's great. I think our student president has kindly put in the UHatch email on there. So if you're following this or want to get in touch with UHatch, the email is right there. And also I will put Rose's email information in the chat so that you're able to access it even when we're done with the live. So yeah, for anyone who's joining us right now, we're just talking about some of the opportunities you have and some of the services that are available for social innovators on campus. So if you are one or are thinking of becoming one, or you know somebody who is a social innovator, please feel free to leave us a question. And if you're watching this, if the live is done, do send me an email or a message, and I'll be sure to respond to whatever questions you have. I think, Rose, you've just really given us a nice round summary of everything that you're involved in. So is there any other thing, any activity or any event that's coming along? I know that there's something that's happening with careers that could be happening.
Yes.
So maybe you can highlight about that, and then we'll give it a couple of minutes for some questions, and then that will be it for today.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to mention that, but we are going to be doing an event with through the careers service for the kind of careers week that's coming up on I think it starts on the 8th to the 12th. I think so. I'm pretty sure. So on that week, we're going to be running with a partner organization, Social Shifters, that we've mentioned before, and also a social enterprise that I work with a lot. We're going to be running a session on social enterprise. We've called it a career with purpose. However, I think we might rename that because it's implying that other careers don't have purpose, and that's not what we want to say. Basically, the event is on I'll just give you I think it's the 11th, and it's between 2 and 3, and basically for that event we are going to just be talking a lot about social enterprise as a potential career option, and we've got someone from an organization called Invisible Cities. And Invisible Cities is a really great social enterprise that's actually now based in a number of places. It originally started in Edinburgh, but I think it's now also in Glasgow, Cardiff, and it's either York or Manchester. And they're continuing to look at how they might grow. Basically, they offer support to people who have been affected by homelessness. And they train them up to become tour guides in the cities that they're in. And the tours as well, there's kind of a double impact to this. The tours are they weave in some of their story to their tour as well. So they'll also be benefiting the tour guides, giving them employment and new skills and building their confidence. But it also means that people who are taking the tours will learn more about the actual experience of people with homelessness, because there's a lot of misconceptions about it and assumptions that they're all addicts, for example, or that they just can't get jobs. And there's actually a lot that goes on when someone leads someone to homelessness. And so I've been on the tour in Glasgow a few times because I've actually taken groups of international students on the tours when they've visited in the last 2 or 3 years. And they're really good tours. They're really interesting. And there's something really nice about taking a tour with someone and actually getting to know them. But they also do all the research and kind of build their own tour, facts about the city in as well. So the one in Glasgow is around kind of crime and punishment in Glasgow over the ages, and there's lots of kind of information there about the courts back in the day, and famous kind of cases from Victorian times, and where they used to hang people in Glasgow, for example. Glasgow had the very first police force, I think, in Scotland. So there's all these facts that I learned that I didn't know about Glasgow, but also the story of the guide as well, which is really quite interesting and moving, and they're lovely people. So anyway, Zakia, the lady that started Invisible Cities, is going to come along and give her story about where the idea came from, why she wanted to start this organization. She had support as well from the Good Ideas program, which I mentioned earlier, and also from First Port. And it's one of these things that I think it's been hard over the years, and she's had to do different things and change tactics, particularly in the last year. Tours have not been happening, so it's been really hard for them, but they've done some quite interesting things to try and do things virtually. So anyway, Zakia is going to come along and talk about her experience, and there'll be the opportunity to speak to her. And then we're going to talk a bit about some of the things that we support from GCU if you want to start a social enterprise, and some information about the Social Shifters kind of platform with a demo and things like that. So it should be an interesting session. And if anyone's kind of toying with the idea of social enterprise as a career option for themselves, even if they're a few years off doing it, then please do come along. I think the careers service has shared this information across the student body. There's a brochure, and if you look for the Thursday the 11th, you'll find information about the session. I think if you scroll to the end of the document they've sent out, it has the link to sign up to that session, so it should be really interesting. But what I can do as well is I can share that Eventbrite link with Tabitha to share also, so that you can find it that way too. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we're looking to recruit these 40 students. For the recruitment of that, we're going to be running some sessions around particular challenges in Glasgow, and we've got some really great people from lots of different organizations who are going to be coming along and talking, but also from other places. And I think those are going to be in the kind of 3rd, 4th week of March and into the 1st week of April. So between the 15th and the 15th of March and the 2nd of April. And again, I'll be sending information about that, I think, through student comms generally, but also I'll share it with Tabitha. Those sessions will be really interesting. I think the topics are kind of around engaging with disengaged youth, about homelessness, about pollution and kind of environmental issues. So, and there's a few more as well. And what I'll do is I'll share that. But they're going to be really interesting sessions as well. And what we might be doing for those sessions, at least some of them at the moment, we're trying to organize this, is do some kind of freebie for coming along. So the homelessness one, we're talking with Zakia, who I've already mentioned, and she's going to come to that. And what she can do is send out a little pack to everyone that attends after the session. And you'll be getting some free Tony chocolate, I can't remember, Tony Chocomaloney, I think it is, chocolate, because they're fighting modern day slavery, but also a QR code to kind of like a virtual tour of I think either Edinburgh or Glasgow, and some like various little kind of fun things. And so we're looking at what we can do with some of the other sessions in terms of like a freebie. So that might entice you to come along if you get a freebie. None of these things are to be paid for. They're all free. So hopefully you can all get interested in some of these things and come along, and we'd love to have you there.
Yeah, definitely. Who doesn't like a freebie? I think you sold me a freebie. So I'll definitely be looking for that link. But yeah, definitely. I think it's just amazing to know that there's all these things happening. And I will, once Rose sends me all the links, put them in this chat, as well as have them handy in case anyone sends me a message in the case that they want to attend any of these events. But that's just very fantastic just to hear from you, Rose. Thank you for accepting my invitation to join my live and giving us so much information about what students can do on campus if they are social innovators, or they're even thinking about it, because I think you always start by thinking about it and then decide to go ahead with it. So that's great. So thank you very much, Rose, for agreeing to come along. And yeah, any last words for the students?
No, just it's been a pleasure, and thank you, Tabitha, for having me. It's been a pleasure to come along and to talk more about what's out there, because really my only mission, there's no agenda, there's no like money involved or anything. We just want to try and engage more students and get them interested in this area. And so there is just a lot of support available. And even if you're not even thinking about developing a social enterprise, if you're just interested and want to be a bit more involved, or, you know, just kind of explore, or even look at whether there's potential for work experience or volunteer options, we're looking at that at the moment. Please just come and let me know, and look out for what we circulate, because there'll be things that come up and there'll be lots of ways to get involved, because I know not everyone's going to want to start a business, for example. So that's okay, because we're still trying to find things that we can do to engage students that don't want to do that. So yeah, just I'm very approachable, I hope. So please just come and talk to me if you're interested, and keep an eye out for what comes out as well. And thank you for coming.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. So I'll just go ahead and say bye to Rose, and then just give a bit of an update about some of the things that we've been working on. So thank you so much, Rose.
Okay, that's great. I'll just leave now.
Yeah. So hi, everyone, and thank you again for sitting and listening to Rose and myself talk about some of the things available for social innovation and campus. I'm just going to take a few more minutes just to talk about some of the big wins we've had at the Students Association the last couple of weeks. And it's just great to see all the things that the officers are doing on campus, and just highlight some of the good things that have happening. So yesterday we got a fantastic email from our principal and our student president telling us that there will be an opportunity to have physical graduations on campus. So that's actually great news, particularly for class of 2020 and 2021. So that's great to see that the university did listen to the student voice, and we are going to have our physical graduation. So that's a big win for the students and the Students Association as well as also highlighting that we have the COVID Winter Fund, which was launched, and our student president also gratefully did a video just to talk about the funds and where you can get she actually did a blog, about where you can get the funding and all this, and it's available for all students. So just to know that if you're having any issues on campus and you need any financial help, this is for you. I will also add the link to that at the end of the live so that you're able to access it. So this is, as I've said, available to all students, international, home, RUK, or EU students. So if you are struggling financially, please do get in touch with the university, because we are here to support you, as well as reminding you that there is the digital inclusion that's happening. So if you are a student struggling out there without a laptop or a dongle, please do get in touch with the university as well, because we want to ensure that all students on campus are able to access the virtual learning environment and have no issues at all. So if you're having any issues, do get in touch with us at the Students Association, and we'll signpost you to the right person, as well as going onto the university's website to get the links to apply for these. So there's so much that's been happening. And just before I end this, just to highlight that it is election period, and the Students Association website, as well as the Student Association Facebook platforms and social media platforms, have been highlighting all your candidates who are vying for this year, just to also let you know that your vote counts and you need to choose who you believe in. So go ahead and look at all the candidates' manifestos, read them, understand them, get in touch with the candidates if you'd like, and just get to know what they stand for and vote, because your vote will determine who will be running your Students Association for the next year. So for any other information that you might have, do get in touch with me or any of your other officers and just let us know what's going on. We always love getting feedback from all of you and just being able to work together. So thank you so much for listening to me, and I will see you on my next Facebook Live a couple of weeks from now. So bye-bye and have a good afternoon.